we go back way back in the caveman days, so on. And we know that man was the protector, okay, and the provider, okay, for the female. And we worried about the female to protect her so that, well, that we wouldn't die off, okay? And then I got thinking, well, common sense says, you know, even back in the caveman days, you had a female that was pregnant with your child. You would have been naturally common sense protecting that female anyhow. So I got thinking about that. I was thinking, well, that was a little bit of bungus because I think that naturally we would have protected them anyhow. Okay, that's where I'm going. And then I got thinking, okay, you know, there's something I've said a long time ago, and I've said it more than once, but the guys in America, they will argue with you to blue in the face and tell you it's bullshit, okay? You know, in the dating scene, women have all the pick, all the choice, all the say-so, all the everything. Guys have nothing, okay? Well, and I've told them before that back in the Western days, that at one time it used to be that the man did the picking and not the female, that the female did the chasing, the pursuing. And, of course, I was called nuts and told, no way, this has never happened, okay? And then, of course, I got thinking today about our roles. The man is to be the provider and the protector, okay? So let's commonly sensibly think about this. You're the provider. This means you're going to go out there, you're going to break your butt to earn the income to support, to care for, and take care of her. So how many of you men out there, okay, if you ain't got a female in your life, okay, how many of you men out there let somebody else choose what you're buying with your money? I don't know many men that let somebody else choose what they're buying with their money. So therefore, I was just thinking, okay, you women out there that want to have all the choice and all say-so, and the guy absolutely has none, but you're looking for that provider, okay? Well, if you're a woman and you say, I'm looking for the provider, then I would have to tell you that you are now a merchandise, a piece of property. You're on a shelf at the store. You're for sale, and you're waiting for a customer to come along and buy you, okay? Because when you want somebody to be your provider, then what you're saying is you want them to support you. Their money for you. Their money is to take care of you, okay? So therefore, unless guys are completely freaking brain dead, okay, you're going to understand that if that's the case, then that means you are the one that's going to pick who you're going to spend your money on. She's not going to do the picking. So that was my thought frame. And well, Warren, I got something. I got a news. Remember, I told you quite a while back about it used to be that the women had to do the chasing of the man.
Yeah.
Okay, remember that? Well,
yeah.
Peter, go ahead and enlighten Warren.
Oh, I thought we talked about this last week. Yeah.
Actually, Warren wasn't here to hear it. This is something I went into with Warren a while back, and I love the way you explain it. So I think that Warren should hear this, and so should Prince Orm. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what I was saying is...
Did you say that... I overheard... Did you say that women used to do, like, the approaching than men?
Yes, that's what I said, and I'll let Peter go. Go ahead, Peter. That's what I said, and I'll let Peter go. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah. Well, what I was saying was, when I was young, I figured out, it's a bit of a story, but I figured out that I'm the prize, not the woman, and if I want a woman, then I should sit back and take my pick of the women who show, quote, an interest in me. And so from quite a young age, and I mean 15, I understood that if I valued myself and what I was going to bring to the table, I was going to be significantly of greater value in a marriage than the woman, and I could see that from my own family, then I should get to select which woman I was interested in. And the way that I did that was I sat back and waited for which women were interested in me, right? But going back before, say, 40, 50 years ago, you had a society, apart from the big cities, where there was relatively low wages. Everybody earned relatively similar wages. The men further up the hierarchy got to have more choice because there was monogamy in marriage, and so and men varied in quality as husbands from very good to bad to outright dangerous. So you had 100 women and 100 men. The women would pursue and chase the men who were the, quote, more marriageable men. And this was quite standard, and it was quite normal. If you look at it from the woman's point of view, the woman wants the man who's more capable of providing, protecting and providing for her. So the further up the hierarchy you were, the more likely that you would be chased by women. And in my case, that was true. I gave up actually pursuing women when I was 15, right? And just said, okay, from now on, I'm going to sit back and wait and see which women show an interest in me. And then from the women who show an interest in me, I'll eventually select which one that I want. Yeah. And, that's how that happened for me. Now, it's changed now. That's only 30 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. Now it's changed. And the change has been that the government has said, we are going to provide for the women and children, and we're going to force that provision from the men, whether they like it or not, and whether the woman provides anything to the man or not. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to convince the men to get married, and then we'll convince the women to get divorced, and we'll use that as a scam to steal from the men and to enslave the men. So 30 years ago, for example, 35 years ago now, I guess, about 30 years ago, my to-be wife, she was one of these girls who went after the bad boy as a 16-year-old, got herself pregnant, got married, shotgun marriage, and then got divorced not long after, claiming abuse from the husband, right? Mm-hmm. Now, in those days, there was very little, if you left your husband, then there was very little money on welfare to live on. And I know exactly how much money my then girlfriend had available to her to live on the welfare payment. And it was not much. I mean, you could not afford bus fare, and you couldn't afford to buy enough food. Her father was a baker. Bill was a baker. And so he would bring a lot of bread to her place, and she'd have to re-sew clothes, etc. for the kids. There's no such thing as nice new clothes, etc. And there's no way that she could afford bus fare, so she had to push the two kids in the stroller downtown when she wanted to go downtown and push them back when she wanted to go home, right? Yeah. But everybody, it was presented as, in those days, if a woman does legitimately have an abusive husband who's beating her around or whatever, then, we as the broader society should actually at least give her a living allowance, right? At least keep her alive in relative comfort, but certainly don't make it attractive, right? Yeah. Because the man and the woman should sort these issues out for themselves, but in the most severe of cases, give them a way out. And that is how it was sold 30 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And I saw that 30 years ago. And I saw what the women had to put up with when they left their husband, right? There was certainly no spare money. And that was the thin end of the wedge. And, of course, now it is, you take 80% of the stuff off the man's immediately labeled abusive and deadbeat and all the rest of it. And that has been the legitimization of enslaving the man and through the family court. So that's kind of how that's happened. And so now you have the situation where any woman knows that if she just gets knocked up by whatever thug boyfriend, the government's going to pay for the next 18 years. So the man is not bringing provision and protection. So instead of women saying, okay, well, I want a man who can provide for me and protect me from whatever's going on. And in social status, women marry up. But in times gone past, they married up just a little bit, right? Because the rest of the women above them in social status were also trying to marry up, right?
Mm-hmm. But
marrying up was only a fairly small step in most cases, except for the girls who got really lucky, right? But today, the government is providing and, quote, protecting, and so the women think, oh, I can marry up a long way. And so you've got this phenomenon of 80% of the women trying to marry 20% of the men, or trying to hook 20% of the men into marriage.
And that's
the other 80% of the men.
But you know, Peter, that's where the 80% chasing the 20% of the men that we're seeing going on fits into this, because I told Warren a long time ago that it used to be that women did the pursuing of men. Okay? And that's been flipped around. And Warren could never find no evidence of that, and I had saw that a long time ago, but I couldn't remember where I saw it. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring this topic up on tonight's show, so that Warren could hear it. And since Prince Aaron's here, I wanted him to hear it. And, of course, Jared, you know, he heard it the other night, but I think Jared had something he wanted to throw into this. So go ahead,
Where
Jared.
can I look this up for myself? Because it is interesting to hear that. I mean, I'm definitely not doubting it. It could be the truth, but like I said, it's something I would want to look into for myself. I mean, I'd want to have some sources to look at.
Okay, find some references, but it's well known that in not that long ago, you had this whole situation of a debutante and the debut. Now, when I was young, I partnered a girl in her debut, right? And basically, the debutante's ball was the woman coming of age, and you had in those days, the social scene of balls and dances, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that the social scene worked was the girl did her debut when she was 16, 17, thereabouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I actually partnered this girl in her debut when she was 16. And I didn't know it, but she was quite keen on me, right? And she was pursuing me, and I had no idea that this was going on, right?
Yeah.
And so she asked me to partner her in her debut. How things worked in those times, and my parents and all my mother and my aunts and all that before them did the same thing. Debut when they were 15, 16, and then they were on to the, quote, social scene. And they would go to dances and balls and things like that, and they'd have these social events at which the girls would meet the boys, and they'd dance with each other, etc., right? And they get to know each other a little bit, and it was all chaperoned, right? And that whole scene was the way of the girls and the boys meeting each other, getting to know each other a little bit, having controlled social interaction, and the boys who were further up the pecking order in one way or another got more choice than the boys further down the pecking order. Now the girls were trying to get the best boy they could get, but in those days, you know, if you were a female who was 21 and you hadn't gotten married yet, then your chances of getting married after your 21st birthday took a pretty steep dive, right?
So even when women were doing the pursuing, then they were still chasing like 20% of the men, 20% of the men at the top.
No, because if the girls would bat out of their league or chase somebody who was going to be made a better offer by what would be perceived to be a better girl, right?
Yeah.
Then he's going to take the better offer. And so the tendency was to, for the most part, for the girls to, the girls and the boys to pick fairly close to their own social status when they were choosing, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes the guys would pursue the girls, but mostly it was the girls pursuing the boys and pursuing to within their close to within their own social level.